Ray Brown's Talkin' Birds.
Made possible by the generous support of the Birdwatchers General Store, Orleans, Cape Cod. Birdwatchersgeneralstore.com.
By Vortex Optics with the VIP warranty. Their unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. Learn more at vortexoptics.com.
And Beautyo Books, an independent family-owned bookstore carrying one of the largest selections of birding books in the world. BeautyOBooks.com.
Good morning. Welcome to our show, number 877. Once again, our thoughts are with the people of Ukraine as they continue to endure and push back in their brave battle against the onslaught from Vladimir Putin. By the way, we have a bird connection to Ukraine this morning. Our friend from Tucson, Audubon, Olya Phillips, who was born in Ukraine, will present a virtual tour of the birds of Ukraine on Thursday, March 31st. It's a free program, and you can register for it at TucsonAudubon.org. If you're hearing our show after March 31st, we think you can see a recording of the program through that same address. We're just trying to check on that to be sure, but it's TucsonAudubon.org. There's a bird found in Michigan and very few other places called the Kirtland's warbler, which was recently saved from extinction through some Herculean efforts by lots of folks. And in late 2019, it was removed from the federal endangered species list. Well, if you live in Michigan, you can now help raise awareness about this bird, which will always need human help, and help raise some money for conservation in the process. You can do it by purchasing one of the new Conserve Wildlife Habitat license plates. For $35, you can get the plate featuring a Kirtland's warbler image, and $25 of those dollars will go to the state's non-game fish and wildlife trust fund. So that's pretty cool, and we learned about this from our good friend of the show, Greg Bodker, who's doing some good work of his own in Michigan, teaching folks about birds. Thank you, Greg. A part of the reason for mentioning the Kirtland's warbler this morning is that on today's show, we'll learn about another bird that's facing the possibility of extinction and whose chance for survival may be even slimmer than that of the Kirtland's warbler. We'll find out more when we welcome today's special guest, Sean Riley, in just a few minutes. That's the pretty distinctive sound of our mystery bird. As a preview of our contest, it comes along in a bit. We would like to get you ready for it, so you'll be able to call us right away when we give the signal. A little later in the show, our mystery bird is a stocky blackbird with a short tail, large head, and heavy finch-like bill. It forages on the ground for seeds and some insects. Male of the species has glossy black plumage on the body and rich brown color on the head. Our bird breeds from northern New England across the northern Midwest and down into the southwestern states. It's found year-round, mostly from southern New England and the southeast and west through southern Arizona. And the female famously makes no nests, but lays her eggs in the nests of other birds instead. Some clues there about our mystery bird, and beautiful prizes include, from our friends at Classic Brands, a Droll Yankees new generation yellow thistle finch feeder with 6 perches to allow several birds, in fact 6 of them, to feed simultaneously. It also has an internal seed baffle, which is a clever little thing that directs seeds to an additional port located at the lowest level to help ensure that the feeder empties completely without allowing that messy seed buildup. And here's something to help protect the birds visiting your yard. A feather-friendly window collision kit. It's recommended by numerous bird conservation groups and experts because it really does work. Time permitting, we'll have a bonus question, and that could win somebody a Wisdom Supply $20 gift certificate. They make those plastic-free books and notepads and journals for classroom and office. So a preview there, the Mystery Bird Contest. And here's our salute. We're happy to be able to make so far every week on our show, thanks to all the wonderful participation by Talkin' Birds ambassadors, helping us get the word out. Thank you to Diane H. from Darien, Connecticut, which just happens to be the hometown of our executive producer emeritus, Mark Duffield. Diane says, I'm new to town and find it lovely. Hope to meet some of my new neighbors here. and work talking birds into the conversation. That's nice. Thank you, Diane. Thank you to Nancy Brown from Seabrook Island, South Carolina. She says, I'm originally from Maine. My wife from Massachusetts. We're now retired. We spend summer on a lake in Maine and the rest of the year in the South Carolina Low Country. My wife, Flo Foley, and I are two of the founding members of a birding club on our island, started 5 years ago, and which now has more than 300 members. We'll write another blog to remind our members about your podcast, and we'll add your website to our website. And their website here is really worth looking at, by the way, SeabrookIslandBirders.org. Nancy says, I thought it was interesting that your program last Sunday discussed murmurations. We distributed a blog the day before on the topic. Just want you to know, Nancy, we did not steal that from you. However, we may steal other things from you in the future. Nancy sent another note saying, other even more interesting things about where we live is that Seabrook Island is a stopping point for thousands of red knots that migrate from the top of South America to nesting grounds in the Arctic. And last year it was announced that the barrier island off Seabrook, DeVoe Bank, is the migration stopover for thousands of whimbrels. And there's one of them now. Well, thank you, Nancy. We love our Talking Birds ambassadors, and we'd like to invite all Talking Birds listeners to join the family. It really does help us get the word out about our show and about our goal, which is to spread the word about the wonder of birds and the vital importance of conservation. You can sign up, as more than 700 listeners have now done, at talkingbirds.com. Just click on the Get Involved tab at the top of the page there. Still to come on our show today, we'll talk with bird researcher Sean Riley about his important work with Saltmarsh Sparrows and long-eared owls. Plus, we'll catch up with Mike O'Connor in the Let's Ask Mike segment, featuring advice about nest boxes, a.k.a. bird houses. And up next, a bird with kind of a fascinating classification history is today's featured feathered friend, presented by Birdwatching Magazine. For more than a quarter century, Birdwatching has been North America's premier magazine about wild birds and birding. Branta is a Latinized form of an Old Norse word meaning burnt or black goose, which brings us to today's featured feathered friend, the brant. It and a similar bird were once considered to be a single species and believed to be the same creature as the crustacean which gave it its name, barnacle goose. That barnacle goose story is covered in the featured feathered friend segment of our show 364, easily found at talkingbirds.com/archive. That's show number 364. But back to the brant, which also looks a bit like a Canada goose, but smaller and chunkier, and with a shorter neck and a stubby bill. It has a black chest, head, and neck, usually with an incomplete white necklace, pale, heavily streaked flanks and belly, and a brownish back. In North America, the brant breeds along the northern coast of Alaska and western Canada, with the Pacific subspecies all along our west coast, and it's found in winter along both U.S. coasts. The brant forages in flocks at most times of year, wading or tipping up in shallow water or on tidal flats, mostly seeking plant material, especially eelgrass in migration and winter. On its breeding grounds, it grazes on sedges, grasses, and pondweed, supplementing its diet with mollusks and worms and aquatic insects. Branta bernicla. That's Latin for barnacle, the brant. Today's Talkin' Birds featured feathered friend. Welcome again. It's our show number 877. Well, Sean Riley is the park supervisor for Belle Isle Marsh and Rumney Marsh reservations here in eastern Massachusetts. He's a licensed bird bander and station manager for the Belle Isle Marsh Education and Research Station. And he's doing some interesting and important research on a couple of bird species, including one which has been described as being on the brink of extinction, the Saltmarsh Sparrow. And he's here with us to talk about his work and the outlook for this very vulnerable bird. Good morning, Sean.
Morning, Ray. How's it going?
Going well. Great to have you on. Thank you, Sean. As I was getting ready for our chat today, I saw this National Audubon headline. It says the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has delayed its decision on the Saltmarsh Sparrow's endangered status to 2023. Scientists say that may be too late. So what about that, Sean? What's the delay and what does this mean?
Yeah, so in this case, sometimes, regulatory entities like U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, some delays are controversial as far as certain areas or developments, that sort of thing. But this was really almost a plea from a lot of us on the ground, researchers. As soon as a bird is federally listed, the red tape that's involved in doing work with those species sort of increases exponentially. So for us, as you said, we're already so far behind with this species. At this stage, if it was to already be listed, it would have halted a lot of the permitting and work that was already underway for a lot of entities on the East Coast. So this sort of just gave us a little bit more time in this case to be able to get a little bit more work done. As soon as something is state listed, not only is working with the birds, or as far as banding or handling them, require additional special permits, but also even just working in their breeding habitat requires different types of authorization and management practices. So this gave us a lot of time to be able to actually figure out just what we need to do at these sites to work with these birds. So when the birds are listed, we'll be ready to handle the permitting and changes to those kind of permits to be able to continue working with the birds.
Okay, so somebody just seeing this headline would think of it as something negative, but you're talking about it in quite a different light.
Yeah, in this case, it was beneficial to the species, and in some cases, like I said, that is not the case. It's a little more politically motivated, but this sort of, for us on the ground, just gave us a little bit more time. Yeah.
So tell us about your study of this bird and how you're going about it.
Yeah, sure. So again, people may or may not know, but Saltmarsh sparrows are only endemic species to the Northeast. And these birds are, they nest right on the ground. So obviously with sea level rise, they're in real trouble. So for us on the ground, what we're trying to understand is, we figured out what their breeding habitats are, but now we're trying to figure out, especially at our sites, what the rates of returns are, how their breeding productivity is, what birds are coming back year after year, if they're dispersing to other sites, or if their site fidelity for breeding, they're coming back to the exact same location. So in Massachusetts, we're one of 3 sites that are undergoing this work with Saltmarsh sparrows, and we have a large portion of their breeding population in Massachusetts, actually. So that's sort of the scope of what we're trying to understand at our sites, and then from there, we're trying to base our restorations of both Rumney Marsh, Belle Isle Marsh, and Department of Conservation from these pilot sites. What can we do at our other sites? So these are high marsh specialists. So the plant communities that are in high marsh, and the plants that Spartina patens, where Saltmarsh sparrows breed in these little nest cups that they make in patens, that's only a plant that's in high marsh. So as sea level increases a little bit and the tide cycle changes, often it's starting to make these very difficult for these birds to breed. Saltmarsh, so there's a lot of this work was pioneered by SHARP, which is Saltmarsh Habitat and Avian Research Program. So they looked at a lot of marsh breeding birds, everything from rails to Saltmarsh sparrows to willets, that sort of thing. And some of the scary statistics coming out of that, their modeling is showing that, a lot of research you'll read will say, well, we're probably definitely by 2100, this bird could be gone or in real trouble. But some of the models we're seeing could be as early as 2035 to 2050. So the time scale for this species being a viable breeding species is really very, very concerning.
I sometimes hear people say, Sean, if this rising water is a problem, why don't they just build their nests a little higher? What's the answer to that?
Yeah, so Saltmarsh sparrows sort of like, snowy owls. They're just a very habitat niche specific species. So they only nest in these certain plant communities. They only nest in high marsh, and they're just not a species that is adaptable to changing their breeding biology, much like snowy owls have to nest up in the high tundra. So it's just a species that's not able to adapt. And these conditions are changing so rapidly that, a year where, historically these birds nest in the neap tide, so when the tides are the lowest, but just these subtle changes in the hydrology of our, the marsh's hydrology and tides, just that little bit of extra water added into the marsh often is all it takes for these nests to fail.
What's your optimism level? I know you're obviously describing some dire predictions here, but do you have some optimism that things can work out somehow?
Yeah, it's certainly a very sort of gloomy outlook. I mean, marshes in general are just in real trouble, and if you look at the rates of what sea level rise is looking like, it's really scary for all of us. But we're hopeful that some of the restoration work that is being pioneered, especially in some sites in Massachusetts, is that we can augment some of the marsh loss and try to build up these habitats, try to build up high marsh habitat to support these birds. So I think the clock is absolutely ticking, but we've made some promising discoveries in how to fix this type of habitat. And, we're hopeful that will, give them some more time. At some point, sea level rise is really going to outpace everything. But right now we're trying to just prolong this type of habitat that they need to breed. And from there, with a little bit of more time, we might be able to figure out some more solutions. So I think the initial stages of fixing their breeding habitat, if we act now, is, somewhat hopeful, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, another bird you're studying, the long-eared owl, I wanted to ask you about. We're getting very short on time here, though, so maybe we can do this at another time, Sean. But while we do have a minute, let me go back to Belle Isle Marsh again, because listeners not far from Boston will want to know that you co-lead bird walks there twice a month. Tell us just a quick overview of that, if you would, and about Belle Isle's rather unusual location as a birding spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Belle Isle is sort of nestled. It's the largest remaining salt marsh in Boston. It's a 400-acre reservation, and we're sort of nestled in Winthrop and Revere. So it's this sort of little green oasis jammed in the city. And, we just have really incredible biodiversity there. We have over 270 species of birds that pass through, 16 state-listed species that breed there or overwinter there, and something like 37 species of shorebirds that pass through. So it's a really neat spot. And we do biweekly bird walks there, free to the public. We start at 7:30 in the morning on the first and third Saturday of the month, and you just kind of show up, and we sort of just explore what birds are there. And then obviously, since we host it year round, everything from Saltmarsh sparrows and terns and shorebirds in the summer to snowy owls and other neat sort of winter specialists in the winter. So it's just a really neat spot. If you haven't been, I definitely encourage people to come and check it out.
And if there are no birds, you can watch other winged entities flying over. It's very close to Boston Logan International Airport. Sean, thank you so much, and thanks for your wonderful work. And I know you'll keep doing it. You can find out more about Sean and what he's doing and other stuff related to that at friendsofbelleislemarsh.com. There's an E in Bell there. That's friendsofbelleislemarsh.com. Thank you, Sean. Coming up next here, it's our Mystery Bird Contest in just 1 minute.
The flutter of a tail feather, the flash of a wing bar in mid-flight. You don't always have a lot of time to identify a bird in nature, let alone to appreciate its beauty. But with Vortex Optics, you'll have the power to bring every wild moment closer. When you choose Vortex, you're choosing to have a partner in the field as passionate about nature as you are. Whether you're spotting old friends on the backyard feeder or packing for a once-in-a-lifetime trip to add a few species to your life list, Vortex offers a full range of optics and optics accessories for every birder and every budget. And whether the birds are taking you to another state or another country, you're always covered by the Vortex VIP warranty, an unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. If you'd like to learn more, or if you need help choosing your next optic, give Vortex a call at 1-800-4VORTEX or visit vortexoptics.com.
Here's the pretty distinctive sound of our mystery bird, and its behavior is pretty distinctive as well, or nearly unique. Here's a description of the bird. It's a stocky black bird with a short tail, large head, heavy finch-like bill. Male has glossy black plumage on the body, a rich brown color on the head. Our bird breeds from northern New England across the northern Midwest down into the southwestern states. The female makes no nest, but lays her eggs in the nests of other birds. It is known to eat the shells of snails and other birds for the calcium it needs because it lays so many eggs. That's just kind of a little aside, I guess. But those are some pretty strong clues, I think, for our mystery bird. And the number is 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. Call us as soon as you can with your answer or guess and win those beautiful prizes. Remember, no correct answer means we'll do a drawing and award the prize just the same. A beautiful Droll Yankees new generation yellow thistle finch feeder with 6 perches to allow several birds to feed simultaneously is one of our prizes from Droll Yankees and classic brands. Plus a feather-friendly window collision kit to keep birds from crashing into your windows. And yes, it really does work, and it's really an important thing, too. 781-837-4900 is the number. 781-837-4900. Meanwhile, we'll check in with Mike O'Connor about some advice on nest boxes. Let's ask Mike in just 1 minute.
Beauty-O Books carries one of the largest selections of birding books in the world. New, used, and rare books covering everything from backyard birding to general ornithology. From field guides to photography skills, biography, fiction, and humor. You'll find it all, along with the knowledgeable customer service you've been looking for, in one convenient place. BeautyOBooks.com. B-U-T-E-O. BeautyOBooks.com.
I am Brian Bixby, and I'm calling from downtown Boston, Massachusetts. What I like in particular about being a Talkin' Birds ambassador is that it makes me sound smart. I don't know much more about birds than anybody else, but it helps start a conversation and it helps make new friends.
Talkin' Birds listeners, we hope you'll join our ambassadors family. It's easy to do. Just visit our website, talkinbirds.com. Join today, and thanks.
Down to Cape Cod we go. Mike O'Connor down there at the Birdwatchers General Store, Route 6A, Orleans, Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Ray. Congratulations on your show today. It's excellent. You've come a long ways from guests like David Clapp. This is really an upgrade having gone crazy.
Oh, yeah. We've taken David right off the list there, I think. He keeps calling and asking to come back on again, but, you know.
Just put him on hold. That's what I do.
Try to remain strong. You know, put him on hold. That's a
He's
good
out of the
tip.
country. He can't hear us, so that's okay.
Well, we have somebody else here who may be visiting your store soon. Mike, you would like to say hello to John Kreitcher.
Oh, John's awesome. He comes in a lot. He's, I deal with a lot of birders, but he's like the most pleasant bird that comes in, and I always pick his brain. He always puts up with me, so I got to give him credit for that.
Hey, Mike, you are just one unique talent. It's a pleasure every time I spend time with you. I go in there, and I just want to see you, and then I feel obliged. I got to buy something.
Yeah.
I put the guilt on you.
Yeah, he did.
Don't let me stop you from buying stuff.
That's his main talent, is putting guilt on people who come into this.
No worries, Mike. You're going to be selling my book before long.
I hope so. Get it ready.
All right. So, Mike, you wanted to talk a little bit about birdhouses and specifically about where to place them, indoors or outdoors, for example?
I'm in the outdoor camp on this one.
Outdoor, okay.
And it's kind of controversial. And I know a lot of people lost their birdhouses this winter because we had all these terrible storms and everybody's replacing them. And I have a couple of just quick advice because I know you got John on. But when you put your birdhouse up, make it sturdy. Attach it to a metal pole if you can. That's a little bit more predator-proof. But because birds put a lot of time into their nesting, and you don't want it falling down in the wind. So put it up as sturdy as you can. You don't have to put it up high. Put it up about 5 feet so that way you can look in it and maintain it and keep an eye on it. You don't want to put up top of a tree, and it's where you need to climb a ladder. As a matter of fact, trees are probably the least best place for them because that's where the predators, the raccoons, run up and down trees all the time. So even though the birds will use them, if you can put it on a pole a little bit out in the open, maybe on the edge of a garden, on the edge of a lawn, that's a better place. And then the other thing is where to face the hole. Everybody asks about that. I always tell, because birds, they might have their favorite direction, but I always tell people, put it the hole where you can see it from your house, because kind of the reason why you do this is to see the bluebirds or the chickadees feeding their babies, and if you put it on the back of a tree somewhere, you don't even know what's going on, then it takes some of the fun out of it. So I say put it on a short metal pole facing part of your house away from the windows, a little bit further into the yard, and away from your feeders, because that's, again, what draws predators. The raccoons sniff around your feeder at night, so don't put it near your feeder, at a different part away from the feeders. That's my quick blast on that.
I think we covered it there, Mike. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you again next week. We'll make sure David Clapp is not here.
Okay. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.
All right. Mike O'Connor down there at the Birdwatchers General Store on Cape Cod.
Birdwatching Magazine has a new membership program. Benefits include detailed bird ID articles from Ken Kaufman and David Sibley, tips and stories about bird photography, access to quarterly e-workshops on identifying and photographing birds, and complimentary print and digital subscriptions to Birdwatching Magazine. Learn more at birdwatchingdaily.com/memberships.
We return quickly to the Mystery Bird Contest at 781-837-4900. And Ariel is down there in the Sunshine State in Florida. Good morning, Ariel.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you. Did I pronounce your name correctly, first of all?
You did.
Okay.
You did a great job. Thank you.
I lucked out on that one. We're in Florida, if you'd like to say.
I'm in Bradenton on the West Coast, avid birdwatcher and a huge fan of the show.
Oh, well, that is beautiful. Thank you. We should award you the prize already without you even having to give the answer here, based on all those beautiful comments. Well, anyway, yeah, so the mystery bird, you heard the sound, you heard the clues, and I have a feeling you're going to get this right, but let's see. What do you say it is, Ariel?
I think it's the brown-headed cowbird.
I think you're absolutely correct about that.
Woo,
yeah.
Awesome.
We might be able to do a mystery bird bonus question here. Let's see if we can do it, if you're up for it.
Oh, yeah, totally. That's awesome.
Not a direct bird question again, but a conservation one. Mercedes-Benz says its new electric concept car, the EQXX, has a range of 620 miles on a full charge and uses many organic materials in its construction, including seat cushions made of what? A, wood pulp. B, bamboo. C, mushroom roots. Or D, prickly pear cactus fibers. Ow! One of those. They all sound kind of interesting. What do you think?
Oh, man. I could see any one of them being the answer, but I'm going to go with bamboo.
Bamboo is the answer. It's actually not bamboo. It's it's mushroom roots. Isn't that kind of
pretty cool?
It is pretty cool. I might mention, though, they use these underground structures of the mushrooms in the seat cushions. But the interesting thing, too, is cactus is used. Another leather substitute made from pulverized cactus fibers is used elsewhere in the interior. And you were right about one thing. The carpets are made entirely of bamboo fiber. So there you go.
That's pretty awesome. Learned something new today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ariel, thank you so much. Stay on the line. We'll take care of that.
All right. Sounds
Send
good.
those
Thanks
prizes.
again.
Ariel in Florida correctly identifying the brown-headed cowbird. And we are out of time completely. Thanks for being with us. See you next week.
Ray Brown's Talking Birds.
Made possible by the generous support of the Birdwatchers General Store, Orleans, Cape Cod. Birdwatchersgeneralstore.com.
By Vortex Optics with the VIP warranty. their unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. Learn more at vortexoptics.com.
And Beautyo Books, an independent family-owned bookstore carrying one of the largest selections of birding books in the world. BeautyObooks.com.